Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Jess Martin. It's been a long time since last video. Today, let's talk about Iran. Unless you just woke up from a coma, you are probably well aware that US and Israel army use their air force and missiles attack Iran's most important military target and beheading Iran's supreme leader Khamenei and his senior officials. Now, in this video, I'll talk why are the United States and Israel choosing this moment to strike Iran, whether Iran's regime might collapse, who will be the biggest loser of this war, the impact on the United States and Israel, and what we should pay attention to in the coming period. Why are the United States and Israel attacking Iran? For these two countries, there are different reasons. Since the 1979 Islamic Revolution, Israel and Iran had severed diplomatic relations and have been in a state of hostility ever since. At the same time, Iran is the largest sponsor of terrorist organizations in the Middle East, such as Hamas, Hezbollah, and Houthi armed forces. They are regarded by Israel as threats. This is the fundamental motivation for Israel to attack Iran. According to public reports, after United States bombed Iran's nuclear facilities on June 22, 2025, intelligence agencies of both countries found that Iran was about to use its stockpile of enriched uranium to produce nuclear weapons, which was absolutely intolerable, and thus this attack began. For the United States, besides the above reasons, there is an even greater geopolitical dimension. After gradually gaining control of the world's major shipping hubs, eliminating the Iranian regime would be beneficial to regional peace, and next, it will devote its full effort to dealing with the real opponent, China. Will the Iranian regime collapse after the strike? This is a very complex question. First, let's look at the strike results. Within the 100 hours after Operation Epic Fury, Israel called their mission Operation Roaring Lion, began on February 28th. The coalition destroyed all of the Iran's naval and air forces. At the same time, Israel used bombs and missiles to precisely decapitate at least 50 core officials, including Supreme Leader Khamenei. The coalition suffered no aircraft losses, and only a few soldiers died. From a military perspective, this was an action of great epic-making significance. Compared with traditional wars in the past, this method is more suitable for dealing with authoritarian regimes. Next, let's discuss Iran's regime. After the death of Khamenei, Defense Council Secretary Ali Shamkhani, Chief of Staff Abdulrahim Musavi, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Mohammad Pakpour, and Defense Minister Aziz Nasirzadeh. Did Iran behave obediently? Actually not. The one who succeeded Khamenei is Mojtaba Khamenei. Just from the name, he is Khamenei's son. So far, we can see that those who have become to power are still extremists. Of course, ironically, these extremists who came up launched a frenzied counter-attack. Although they couldn't reach the US mainland, couldn't they reach the Arabic countries around you? So we saw that start from March 3. They began frantically attacking civilian facilities in neighboring countries, and even Israel was not spared. Which country in the world currently has the highest probability of its senior military commanders getting into trouble? Besides China, it might be Iran. In China, they are purged by stupid Xi Jinping, while in Iran, commanders are being eliminated one by one by Israel. In fact, as early as 2020, the commander of Iran's Revolutionary Guard, Quds Force, Soleimani, was assassinated. So it is really that these people's faith is extremely strong? Actually not. These people act this way essentially to protect a massive interest group. This interest group was born out of anti-American sentiment and also thrived because of it. This interest group is actually the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. This unit was established in 1979, and its initial purpose was to help maintain Khomeini's rule and assist him in the Iran-Iraq War. However, everything changed during Khamenei's era. Before 2005, Iran nationalized banks and large industrial enterprises. After that, Iran planned to privatize half of the state-owned enterprises, which in reality became the private property of Khamenei and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. From military industry to communications to automobiles and even core sectors like crude, all were absorbed by Khamenei. At this point, the Revolutionary Guard was no longer just a military force, but a military-industrial complex. At that time, this change didn't significantly affect lives of ordinary people, but the nature of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps changed. It became a business, and the goal of a business is profit. Soon, the Revolutionary Guard discovered a way to make money by exploiting sanctions. International sanctions are means of punishing dictators through economic measures, aiming to force them to step down or dismantle their power. However, in Iran, they have become a way to consolidate its own position and gain excess profit. For example, in the energy sector, Iran has a place called South Pars gas field, which is known as the largest gas field in the world by reserves. Before the sanctions, this field was jointly developed by the Iranian government, France Total, and the Netherlands Shell. But after EU sanctioned Iran in July 2012, the Revolutionary Guard took over this field. Iran realized that driving out foreign companies was a better way to plunder its own resources. What methods could drive out foreign enterprises? There was no better way than sanctions. At the same time, the embargo caused by sanctions made it impossible to transport oil through normal channels, forcing it to be transported using the shadow ships of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The Revolutionary Guard collects a 20% oil price as a toll fee. Relying on smuggling, Iran obtains its only source of foreign exchange. The Revolutionary Guard used the dollars earned from oil to import some essential goods, such as mobile phones, computers, and medical supplies. According to an early estimate by Reuters, the revenue from sanctions and smuggling is about $80 billion. One estimate suggests that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard controls 40% of Iran's total economy. How many people are in it? A force of 125,000 plus logistics bringing it to about 200,000, roughly 0.2% of the total population. So this creates a cycle. The supreme ruler obtains excess profit for the guard. The guards maintain the ruler's dictatorial rule, and 2,000 of the population go to suppress remaining Iranians. And this excess profit actually comes from sanctions. This is why hardliners keep coming forward one by one. There are generally three modes of subversion in the world for dictatorial countries. One is sanctions, but as we have seen, the more sanctions are imposed, the less effective they became. And sometimes the dictators even become stronger. Sometimes, even if some people want to compromise, they will be suppressed. So unless the largest buyer of Iranian oil, China, is also sanctioned, there might be some effect. Of course, sanctioning China just for Iran would be prohibitively costly. Another way is public protest. Indeed, Iran has seen many large-scale protests in recent years. In the most recent one, The guard massacred at least 30,000 people. In other countries, dictators facing such massive protests would likely be overthrown. But the ground model based on excess profits means that in the face of enormous interest, no one considers conscience and morality. The third option is usually for ground forces to enter, like overthrowing Saddam, but this method is extremely costly, and the results aren't necessarily good. However, the current operation is unique, decapitating the top leader. After all, no matter how much money there is, life is irreplaceable. So we don't know the final outcome. According to the Trump talk, the plan is to keep bombing until no one is willing to be the top leader, and that might be the turning point. More precisely, it is that when the Revolutionary Guard realize they can no longer gain any benefit, facing one death after another will force them to change their thinking. Like Mao Zedong, if he doesn't die, China would never have undergone reform and opening up. The death of Khamenei might not necessarily improve the lives of Iranian people, but if he doesn't die, the lives of the Iranian people will definitely not getting better. The biggest loser of this war. Iran's losses are the most direct. Dozens of senior officials were killed in bombing. The Navy and Air Force were completely obliterated, and thousands of military targets were struck. As of March 6, Iran has lost overall military command and the ability to retaliate. Of course, we need to note that Iran's largest trading partner, China, has remained fairly silent during this operation, even canceling its routine military flights around Taiwan. Let's analyze the losses China faced from this action. Intelligence suggests that at the beginning of 2025, China supplied Iran with 1,000 tons of sodium perchlorate, a solid rocket fuel, which could produce 200 to 300 long-range ballistic missiles. In the military operation, we can see that a vast majority of Iran's ballistic missiles were intercepted, making it impossible to cause any substantial harm to US and Israel forces. At the same time as being attacked in Iran, news was released requesting China to provide CM-302 supersonic anti-ship missiles, which are said to reach speed of Mach 3 and have a range of 290 kilometers, specifically designed to target aircraft carriers and large warships. It is said that an agreement was reached earlier this year, but there is no evidence that Iran has used this missile, and China strongly denies it. It is widely believed that Iran has already been equipped with Chinese-made HQ-9B air defense system, which is a copy of the Russian S-400 air defense system. Iran has developed the above-mentioned system in actual combat. We have not seen any footage of this system containing attack US-made aircraft. This suggests that during airstrikes, these systems are fundamentally unable to detect and intercept such aircraft. If one argues that Venezuela's failure during the operation to capture Maduro was due to poor system maintenance, that reason doesn't hold for Iran. With US forces massing at its borders for more than a week and giving Iran's already tense geopolitical situation, not to mention that it had already been stuck last year, the same excuse is logistically untenable. A more reasonable explanation is that Chinese and Russian weapons only have impressive specifications on paper but lack real combat capability. This can also be seen from their performance in the Russian-Ukraine war. This undoubtedly poses a significant concern for potential buyers. After all, the military industry of Chinese Communist Party is extremely corrupt, with research and development funds having already been misappropriated. Even the chief designer of the Shandong aircraft carrier could be arrested. let alone the air defense system. Additionally, for the CCP, this is definitely not good news. Losing foreign trade order is a minor issue. What Xi Jinping understands clearly at this moment is that United States can decapitate Iran's supreme leader, and it could do the same to him. This is the greatest fear for a dictator. Some people say if China followed the US example and captured Taiwan's president Lai Ching-te, what the consequence would be. I can tell everyone that in a democratic country, a president cannot continue in office, will be served by vice president. Believe it or not, if Lai Ching-te were captured and were taken to Beijing, the people of Taiwan would certainly be able to elect an even much more hardline president. Moreover, Taiwan is equipped with many US-made air defense weapons, and the CCP currently doesn't have the ability to do this, or it would require a very high cost to carry it out. Politically, this would leave Xi Jinping very isolated. We can observe an interesting phenomenon. In recent years, any national leader who had good relations with Xi Jinping has not fared very well. From Russia, whose national strength has already been overstretched, to Syrian President Assad, who was forced into exile just 6 months after visiting China, Maduro, who was arrested in New York last 2 months ago, and Khamenei, who was killed in a bombing a few weeks ago. Xi Jinping's circle of allies is shrinking, and China's voice on the international stage is correspondingly weakening. For a dictator aiming to establish a great achievement, this can be seen as a significant obstacle. Other countries that have remained friendly with the CCP after seeing China quickly keep distance from Iran will also reassess their relationship with China. Among the factors currently impacting China the most, none is greater than the economy. We know that after real estate bubble, China fell into a downturn with persistent deflation. Regardless how the political situation in Iran develops, China will inevitably lose Iran as a source of cheap oil. According to incomplete statistics, China imports about 1.4 million barrels of Iran crude oil per day through independent refiners located in Shandong, accounting for more than 80% of Iran's oil export. Due to sanctions, Iranian crude is transferred via a shadow fleet near eastern Malaysia to Chinese oil tankers, and this oil is usually discounted by $8 to $10 compared to international prices. Moreover, it is traded in RMB, so let's calculate China's losses, importing 500 million barrels a year adds about $5 billion in extra costs, and together with the $40 billion cost of purchasing oil, this alone consumes $45 billion of China's foreign exchange reserves. Pay attention that $45 billion cost is based on $80 per barrel. This doesn't even include Venezuela's cheap oil, about 400,000 barrels per day. More importantly, this oil is settled in RMB, which is so-called the internationalization of the RMB touted by that stupid Xi Jinping. Venezuela uses it to repay its debts to China, and Iran, in addition to repaying debts, will also purchase military and essential supplies. Without bulk commodity trading, the already limited RMB settlement becomes even less. Let's now discuss how the United States might handle Iran's energy going forward. Many Chinese people believe that the US launched military action for Iran's oil, and I wonder how everyone watching views this issue. In fact, whether it's the Democratic Party or the Republican Party in power, the value of oil is far less important than maintaining an order led by the United States. Although the current administration has abandoned the previous globalized order and returned to Monroe Doctrine, maintaining the dollar system remains the core. After all, there is no better currency in the world than the US dollar. Iran exports about 600 million barrels of oil annually. At the current price of $80 per barrel, that amount is roughly $50 billion. For a mid-sized country, this is a significant amount of foreign exchange, but for the United States, it's hardly worth deploying two carrier strike groups in exchange. What is most likely to happen next is, after military operations, the United States will temporarily take over Iran's energy export, similar to the Venezuelan government situation, quickly restore maritime traffic in the Strait of Hormuz, bringing international oil price back to normal levels, and sell Iran energy at market prices. The proceeds would be placed into custodial accounts to be used upon application by the new or interim government and subject to U.S. approval, ensuring it benefits the Iranian people. So Xi Jinping will most likely still be able to continue purchasing Iranian oil, just that it would be paid for US dollars with no any discount price. Haha. The new government is very likely to be pro-American, like the current Venezuela. So there is a high probability it will refuse to recognize the debt owed to China. Typically, these countries accept RMB loans issued by China's policy banks, with Chinese companies carrying out the construction of roads, bridges, telecommunications, ports, and subways. This is what so-called Belt and Road by Xi Jinping is about, exporting China's access capability to the world and expanding China's influence. For oil-producing countries like Iran, loans are usually backed by energy as a collateral. This might be the benefit the CCP has given to Iran. Impact on the United States and Israel. This military operation is of great significance to Israel, dealing a severe blow to Israel's greatest enemy over the past decade. After this, it will be difficult to have large-scale terrorist attacks against Israel. With the withdrawal of Chinese and Russian influence, the Middle East may come into a period of peace. Therefore, I'm more inclined to call it the Seventh Middle East War. For the United States, this operation has redefined military action, no longer like previous wars that required deploying large-scale ground forces and consuming massive resources. This is certainly a fatal blow to already very exploited CCP, especially to Xi Jinping. Up to now, the world's major waterways, the Suez Canal, the Strait of Gibraltar, the Strait of Hormuz, the Strait of Malacca, and the Panama Canal have all come under US control, and the global order has returned to the law of the jungle, where the strong prey on the weak. After dealing with this, attention will return to the Asia Pacific, where there is an ultimate opponent. As for whether it will be like the collapse in 1991, or whether the regime will be overthrown or bombed, we don't know, but I believe, God bless America, that in our lifetime we will surely witness it, a future highlight. For friends who like investing in US stocks, the recent period is a low point and a good opportunity to buy. We can see that there was only a decline on the first day after outbreak of conflict, followed by stability, which shows that the market's attitude toward this conflict is relatively optimistic. After all, the US has an overwhelming advantage in strength. Oil prices have risen somewhat now because shipping has been affected. However, they will fall back before long, as this operation will not last for a particularly long time. In the White House, the president also named Cuba as the next target. This country is very close to the United States, and its strength is even far weaker than Venezuela's. I believe there is no need to take military action. Extreme pressure alone can make the red forces withdraw. In the past few weeks, this country has experienced widespread blackouts, and small-scale protests have already occurred. The biggest focus is still China. This is an English channel, so I believe very few viewers hold RMB-denominated assets. However, I was born in China, so I still think it is necessary to remind my friends in China to quickly sell RMB-denominated assets and convert them into US dollar or cryptocurrencies. Rising energy price will deal an even greater blow to China's already weak economy. Once there are any news, I'll provide a timely update to everyone. Thank you for watching this episode. See you next time. Bye bye.